you ever dated a woman with children?
I have, but I was young. I was like 22. I had a cougar. She had some younger kids. How old is your son?
He's 11.
He's 11. And from my experience, I've told myself I couldn't take a woman with children seriously.
Why?
The child's always gonna come first.
Yes.
The child's gonna always come first. I'm going to always need to put you first, but I come second. And technically, he's a 10-year-old boy who's going to get into his teenage years. He's going to be in a situation where you're not my dad, right? I'm not talking about an anecdotal experience. Your son may be a sweet child, but my experience, it just hasn't been the best.
You have the right to feel however you want about dating a single mom. That's your prerogative, whatever. But you're on a date with a single mom. What are you talking about? Your priority here is supposed to be trying to get a third date. I don't even know why I want a second date with you in this moment.
Realistically, yeah, we can have some fun.
But taking it serious.
It's like taking it seriously is just hard because I don't have to settle. I've done certain things in my life to put me at a certain echelon, to date a certain top tier. Not saying a woman with a child isn't top tier, but like standards-wise, is like, I like to travel and be like, yo, let's go. Let's go to Miami, let's do this, let's do that. And it's like, let me call my mom and see if she can watch the kid. It's just no real benefit in it for me.
Joya?
Yes.
You didn't ask for another date with him. What was the turnoff?
Specifically, the turnoff was when I asked that question about would you date a single mother? And Jacoby, you proceeded to tell me that basically you're a high-value man and you are too good for a single mother. However, you did also tell me that you were raised by a single mother, which is profound for me to think that a single mother's not good enough for you, but it's good enough for a woman to raise you. That's unfair, and it's very insensitive to women out there who have children.
All right, so just because it's a cycle, I wanted to continue?
It doesn't have to continue.
So what I'm saying is that
it's more about why would you cut off and say that single women are not on the same level?
What you're supposed to learn from is history. So you're a very intelligent woman. You're a very intelligent woman, right?
Yes.
So if you know, as a woman growing up, you know it's the less likelihood for you to be successful by having a child. So what you do, you be more proactive. Using condoms.
What's that got to do with your choice?
Okay, if you're getting pregnant, then all right, cool. Maybe I shouldn't continue having this child because I'm not getting married. A better chance of me having a successful life.
You're speaking
by
of
finding a man. That's what I'm thinking.
So you were raised by a single mother?
Yes. And
is your mother still alive?
I struggle. My mom's still alive.
Did she struggle or did you struggle?
Both of us struggle.
Okay, so your words that echoed all around social media, and I want to make sure that we have this clearly, were, I'm a high-value man. I've done things to step up my echelon, and I'm not going to settle for a single mother.
Yeah,
did I have that correctly? I want to be clear.
Yeah, we'll be selling.
Right. So what makes you think you're a high-value man? The car you drive?
No, the value I put out into the world.
What about your character?
I have great character. I've built myself to basically have better choices. You want to know why? Because women can choose and make a choice.
They can.
They can say, I don't want to date a man that makes less than 6 figures.
They can.
And then what are you doing?
But we're not talking about that. That's not the situation at hand.
Listen,
That's not the
woman can say,
conversation.
I won't date a man less than 5'8", and the man could be 5'4". Do they care about
what does that have to do
ostracizing all of those
with
men?
anything?
If a fat man is sitting here, he can be a fat man, right? But if a fat woman is sitting here, you would say, oh no, we're body positive. Oh, no, we can't say that. It's all about picking her up. So every time it's saying something for a man, it's down.
You got a lot on your back, okay?
Man.
So what I want to be clear, not just for you, but for everybody out there, is the car you drive, your resume, your bank account, your accolades is not what makes you a high-value man.
Definitely not.
We are all defined by the sum of our deeds and our character, and you, brother, are coming up to the sum of 0.
Okay, so I'm going to respond to this clip by Sansaray Monique or whatever. And I felt that there was no more appropriate a time to respond to this type of clip than Father's Day. And Father's Day is tomorrow, but considering YouTube slows down monetization of certain videos that it, in the algorithm, deems that it doesn't like, there's a very good possibility that this video won't be cleared until tomorrow. Today is Saturday, tomorrow's Father's Day. Sunday. So basically, this clip is about the other clip that I'm going to show where you had a black male who stood up on his square and he was on a panel. And this is one thing, black men, if you don't prepare yourself for the sign language, the shame, the insult, the guilt, the need to be right, if you don't prepare yourself for the SBE, the shame, blame, and explain, you pretty much should stay away from these panels. And the reason why is because what you'll hear is the same old bullshit. You'll hear, oh, could you let me speak for a minute? And the next thing you know, you'll be having SBE thrown at you. Shame, blame, and explain. They'll be shame, blaming, and explaining the hell out of you. And you won't know what to do. And we're going to get to that in a second. But okay, I'm going to I'm going to respond to this video. So basically, that video clip sparked replies and it sparked other responses, right? So the shame, blame, and explain, this sign language that they're trying to force on men. Apparently, if you're a black man, you're not allowed to have choices. You're not allowed to have standards, right? So the first thing they want to do is start talking about your character, which is absolute bullshit. But the thing that you got to understand is that the SBE is coming. And you have to be prepared for it because it will blindside you if you're not careful. So right here, we have SBE, absolute SBE. So wait, what we're going to do is we're going to respond to it. We're going to point out the SBE. Can't deal with this SBE no more. Watch this, watch this.
Now, I know some of y'all don't have critical thinking skills, so...
Now, already we starting with the SBE, the shame, the insult, the guilt, the need to be right. Already we got insults. Already we've got... your intelligence being insulted. So just keep that in mind. Hold on.
I'm going to try to break this down carefully. Stay with me. Number one, it is okay for a man to have the preference of not dating a single mother.
Okay, first of all, it absolutely is okay for a man to have whatever preference he wants. Not just about dating single mothers, but about dating anybody he wants. As a man, that's your goddamn God-given right. Period. Stop, point blank. Nobody gives a shit what your opinion is. At all. Right there, we stop right there. Just like that, it's my child, my choice nonsense. And just like all that, yeah, I can choose what I want and all that. It's my body, I do what I want. What did Cartman say? He's like, I can, whatever, I do what I want. So bottom line is, it's a man's choice what he does. If he wants to take his money and spend all of it on Home Depot girl, that's his choice. If he wants to take his money and simp and be a total simp, even though we might not like it, that's his choice. He could simp to the high heavens. If he wants to take his money and he wants to trick globally, if he wants to trick anywhere in the globe, that's his choice. If he wants to trick interdimensionally and he wants to go through a dimensional portal and trick on the aliens on Kepler 22b, that's his choice. You ain't got nothing to say about that. See, the mistake here is what we got is we got social media that makes it so that everybody seems like they can criticize other people over whatever choice they're making, right? Now, the return will be, oh yeah, well, if you put it out there, then we can criticize it, right? And that very well might be true. The thing about it is these people act like they're trying to gang up on you because you decide to make a choice that they don't like. It's like, well, what's going on here? But anyway, we're gonna, I'm very disappointed that the U.S. Congress hasn't banned TikTok already, like the Chinese government would have, because any social media that the Chinese government feels is not proper for its people, they just cut that shit off. All they do is reach on the wall, flick a switch, boom, it's gone. Meanwhile, my stupid government, which is useless, allows this media platform, which they pretty much have already claimed is there for domestic espionage, to continue to rot the minds of the youth in this country, and also continues to be what they claimed was a national security threat. So I don't think they're serious. If you're going to tell me that somebody's spying on me from another country and you're not going to do nothing about it, then as far as I'm concerned, you lose your goddamn job. The next time we do a rotation, I'm going to vote the other way. I'm going to get your worst enemy, and I'm going to vote for him as long as he promises to do it. But this is ridiculous. So anyway, let's go.
Number 2, it's okay for a single mother to feel some type of way about that if in fact the reasoning behind why this man doesn't want to date a single mother is because he feels like something is wrong with the single mother.
Okay, we're in agreement right there. You could be upset about all of a sudden somebody say they don't want to date you because you got some other guy's kids out there. So if that's the case, then why are we going beyond number 2? Number 1, the guy has the right to do whatever he wants and date whoever he wants. Number 2, you have a right as the person in question to feel a certain way about it. I don't understand why you got to go further than that. All right, let's keep going.
When the truth is, he simply doesn't want to raise somebody else's children.
And that's absolutely true. Because here's the problem. See, what people don't understand. If you are a stepdad, basically what you're doing is you're financing another man's orgasm. Period. That's basically what you're doing. I mean, there's no way around that. That's what you're doing. Now, there are some species out there where the species is willing to be cleanup bros. When we say cleanup bros, we're talking about stepdads. There are some species out there where if you have, orphaned animals of the species, there are some species where females will step up and they will fill the role of a surrogate. Cats are one of them, for example. Like if you have a cat that finds a litter of cats, typically a female cat will play mom. If you have a litter of cats that were like one of these stray cats who's a kitten comes in, typically they'll get along, they'll let them in, right? Lions are one exception because, like, if you have a male lion, he will absolutely kill all of the male cubs that were left behind by the last male lion. So that's one exception to the rule. But the reality is, most animals, they don't play stepdad, they don't play cleanup bro. They don't do it. And the reason why is because they consider offspring of another animal to be competition for them. In most cases, they are right. There are some pack animals that otherwise, they'll step up and they'll say, okay, yeah, you're one of us, so we'll take care of you. Yeah, but nowadays, what it appears is that men are just being used for their money. And if men are just being used for their money and their resources, it's like a lot of guys don't appreciate that. So in the human species, I believe I can speak for them. I'm pretty sure most men, they don't want to play cleanup bro if they think that they're not getting anything worthwhile out of it. So, it is what it is.
Number 3, when a man is raised by a single mother and he himself says he will never date a single mother.
Now, obviously, we are talking about the clip where this man specifically said, he's like, why would you want me to continue the cycle? See, and this is one thing that I've constantly talked about, especially when I was talking about Passport Bros. This is one thing that I've constantly talked about. I've continuously affirmed that especially black males, but increasingly more white males now, because now they're feeling the fire, but especially black males, they feel cheated by this system. They feel alienated by this system. So they're suffering from grief and anomie. And that's a word that I've brought up before. I've explained it numerous times. It's a word you've probably never heard of. It's anomie. So basically, when you have a culture or society and you have a breakdown of social norms or traditional values, that's the easier way of saying it. Basically, the men start to suffer from what's called anomie. Now, that's aside from the grief. Now, I'll talk about that in a second. But anomie, when men are suffering from anomie, they basically give up. So all of those articles that I brought up on this channel about men giving up, not enrolling in college, not enrolling in universities, dropping out of high school, dropping out of college, dropping out of the workforce, all of those things that I brought up, you have to ask yourself why. All those articles that I brought up about the military complaining about young men dropping out of the military, not joining recruitment. And you ask yourself, why? It's like, because the men feel that there's nothing worth protecting. One of the things that you have to understand about the word conservative basically means to conserve. That means whatever it is, you're trying to perpetuate it or keep it up. I would wager that if I could get all of the men to raise their hand or lower their hand and vote on this, and I asked them, do you think this current society is worth conserving? I guarantee you the vast majority of them would say no. And if that's the case, then you can pretty much understand the reason why the attitude of most men towards this society is nothing more than contempt and disgust. It perfectly explains, you know how in the media, every time there's like a school shooting or you have this violence with men and, oh, I can't believe this happened. How could this happen? Oh my God, it happened again. And you think about it, you're like, wait a minute. If this is happening constantly with younger and younger people doing these crimes, you have to ask yourself, well, why would they be doing this? And, you know, the liberals, they come up, oh, well, he shouldn't have had a gun. It's like, well, the gun didn't kill anybody. And there's been plenty of young men who've had guns in the past, but they also had fathers in the household who taught them right from wrong, who taught them respect, who taught them honor for the family. But nowadays, you don't have that. There have been plenty of young men in the past who've had guns, who go out, they'd shoot animals, and they'd bring the food home, and they'd cook it. They'd literally shoot and skin freaking animals. So what was the difference between then and now? It's because these men don't respect this society at all. They don't respect the laws. They don't respect those in government because as far as they're concerned, these people are not working for them. So it's obvious that they're isolated or they feel cheated in many cases by society. There's a lot of young men right now who are walking around thinking that the election system is a fraud. There are a lot of young men who think that their vote doesn't matter, so they don't vote. There's a lot of young men who think that they've been cast aside by the system. So they're not going to do anything to work to conserve it. Another really quick example, and by the way, I'm using fair use, so I have to stop the video. I can't just play the video. I have to stop it like every 10 seconds or some shit. So one of the other things is, another article I pointed to, and you can look this up, that there's a shortage of black male semen. No black males want to donate semen. So you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why don't they feel it necessary to perpetuate their species? Or why don't they feel it necessary to create more children that look like them, even if it's with women that they don't know? Why don't they feel it necessary? Well, it's obvious. It's because in the back of the black male mind, somewhere buried deep into the black male subconscious, as far as they're concerned, this society is not worth perpetuating. Now, they can't flick a switch and make it disappear. But what they can do is they can refuse to participate in it. And by refusing to participate in it, this is how, these are the microaggressions, we could call them. These are the microaggressions at which these black males say, you know what, I'm not going to participate. This society can fucking burn. I don't give a fuck. And that's it. And they just take their money and they divest. They take their money, they leave. This is where you get the passport bros from. White males are doing this more often too. There are white males who are stepping away, who are divesting, who are becoming passport bros, who are leaving, who are saying, yeah, I don't like this anymore. This isn't working for me. Daniel was one of them, the one on the New York Times article that I read. He's like, yeah, I'm not joining up for this. I don't want any part of this. And they just leave and they step away. And that's the non-violent way of doing it. The violent way of doing it, obviously, we know what that looks like, and we don't want to really talk about that one. But there you go. That's what they're doing. Let's get back to the video.
If a single mother is beneath him, he is...
Well, you're using shame, blame, and explain. Nobody necessarily said that the woman's beneath him. He didn't say that. He just said, first of all, I don't want to be a cleanup bro to your kids, number one. And number two, it's just like, I don't want to date you for whatever reason. That's his choice. But see, you can see just how, it's a combined effort. The passport bros are literally showing these women that their plan B is leaving, going abroad, getting younger traditional wives overseas who are giving them marriage that they're looking for, who are giving them families that they're looking for, and who are basically being the women that they just demanded, desired, whatever word you want to use. But that's just one segment of men. The next segment of men is saying, yeah, I'm not dating a single mom. So guess what? If you go out there and you ruin yourself by having another man's kids illegitimately, well, I'm not dating you. And that's just that simple. So what we're seeing here is how women are reacting to a shrinking dating pool. That's what's happening. As this economy continues to whip people's asses, here in New York, a one-bedroom apartment is about $2,000, give or take. And we're talking about a decent-sized apartment with a bathroom, a kitchen, maybe 2 rooms, a bedroom plus a main family room, and probably not even that big of a kitchen, probably a kitchenette. Now, that's about $2,000 right now. If you try to buy a house right now, you're paying no less than $500,000. And with a 7% interest rate, thanks to the Federal Reserve continuing to raise interest rates, you're talking about probably no less than about $3,500 a month to buy a house. But guess what? The housing is severely limited because there's no houses left in supply. So that means more than likely you'd end up in an apartment. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to build up all these multi-story dwellings and all these multi-family commercial buildings so that they can ease the pressure of the lack of housing supply. Now, see, I'm lucky. I was able to get my houses before COVID, so I paid less than $300,000. Anybody who follows me, they pretty much know my story at this point. But I'm really lucky on that front. But when it comes to these new women, think about all the women a generation below me who are right now hitting the age of, let's say, 20, 25, 18, 20, 25, even 30. They can't afford a goddamn thing. Why? Because number one, as a woman, they're spending a lot of their money just on personal care. It costs like, $70 to get my hair did. You see these Raptor claws? These Raptor claws cost $40 at the Chinese Raptor claw nail shop. It's like they're spending all their money on stupid shit. And the bottom line is, I've heard women say, yeah, it's a job just to be a woman, right? And if they ain't got a guy, then they can't tap into his resources in order to bolster their resources. So they're basically, this is what it comes down to. These women are basically competing with the men. And you'd like, oh, that makes no sense because, the first thing you dumbasses who think you're alpha males and you're not, the first thing you do is, oh, you get in your feel, oh, that doesn't make sense. Women can't be masculine. Oh, they're not competing. Yeah, they are. They're competing directly with you. They're competing with you for resources. They're competing with you for space. They're competing with you for apartments. They're competing with you for houses. They're not working with you. They're competing against you to get the same things. If you both go into the store at the same time, you and a strange woman, and y'all go to the shelf and there's one box of spaghetti left, she wants that spaghetti, you want that spaghetti, she's competing with you for that spaghetti. I mean, those are the basic laws of freaking biology and nature and Darwinism. Those are basic laws. So yeah, they are competing with you. What's not happening is we're not cooperating. And with no cooperation, the housing market is twice as bad because now there's no cohabitation. There's no dating, courtship, marriage, and cohabitation. That's what you don't have. So you're competing. It's making your housing market worse. It's making the economy worse for certain people. And they want your resources, but the thing about it is, as long as you stay single and as long as you stay away from them, they can't get access to your resources. They see you driving around in your expensive car, and they think to themselves, man, if I was with him, I'd be able to afford that Range Rover. Right now, they're going into these car dealerships, and these car dealerships are telling them, no, you can't afford this. And they're saying, no, we're not going to give you that loan. Why won't you give me the loan for this house? You're a racist. It's like, no, your FICO score is like a 600. You don't make enough money. We're not giving you the loan. They go into, and I guarantee, guys, this happens all the time. I see it every single week. Go into a Jaguar dealer, go into a Land Rover dealer, go into a Mercedes dealer, go into a BMW dealer. You go into any of those places right now, they're talking 7% interest unless you're buying a used car. And a used car, they might be able to give you a 3% interest. But you don't want the used car. You want the new car, right? These chicks trying to be boss babes, driving around all big and high and mighty in their Land Rovers and their Range Rovers. They're trying to drive the Hummer. But guess what? Hummer said, nah, this car is $150,000 with a 7% interest. You ain't buying it. Oh, you a racist. Why can't I get that loan? You a racist. They'd be like, nope. Go. You can report us to the Better Business Bureau. We don't give a fuck. We ain't giving you this loan because you can't afford it. So then they have to relent, and then they think about it. They're like, man, if I was married, I'd be able to afford this. But I can't afford this because I don't have anybody else's money. I don't have anybody else's money to spend. I don't have money to supplement my income. You're in competition with them. That's what it is. Whether you want to accept what I say or not, you're in competition. Okay, let's get back to the video.
Part of the problem. Number 4, those of you who be like, oh, he just doesn't want to repeat the cycle, lack the critical thinking skills necessary.
There's no lack of critical thinking skills in saying that a man doesn't want to repeat the cycle. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to think that somebody who doesn't want to... First of all, the definition of insanity is doing the same shit over and over and getting the same results. How stupid do you need to be to not see that somebody who doesn't want to repeat a cycle that obviously yields poor circumstances and poor consequences, how stupid do you need to be to not recognize that somebody who doesn't want to repeat a negative cycle is the smart one? Anyway, shame, blame, and explain. Shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right.
I should have thought this through a little longer. Number 5, in order for him to not repeat the vicious cycle of single motherhood, he would have to either A, become a stepfather to a fatherless child.
Wrong. In order for him not to repeat the stepfather cycle or the single motherhood cycle, all he has to do is get a woman who's not a single mother and not divorce her and be in a situation where she doesn't divorce him. That's it. And he can be a father, he can be married, and he can have children. You seem to be forgetting that there is a first option, and you just skip to option B. Like, I don't understand that. No, I do understand it. Shame, blame, and explain.
Or B, not create a single mother himself. Number 6, if a man was raised by a single mother and he didn't necessarily have the best relationship with her, and that's the reason why he doesn't want to date single mothers, it isn't because she was a single mother that made her the worst person to be mothered by. It was because she was a terrible person to begin with.
I honestly think that the main reason why no man wants to be around another woman's kids from another man, and I think there's actually probably 3 reasons, but I think the main reason, and I'll start with the one that's probably number 3. First of all, if she has another man out there, I think somewhere in that man's subconscious who would normally date her, like the newcomer, I'm pretty sure he thinks, wait a minute, she probably still has a relationship with this last guy. And whether or not she has a relationship with this last guy, she absolutely has a relationship with this last guy through that kid. Because right now, a lot of people are choosing not to get married. The problem is that they're still having these children. The marriage is coming through that kid. You remember how they used to call it the ball and chain? You know, I thank God. I thank God. I don't thank God enough. But I thank God that I was born in the 80s. You know why? Because we had television that told the truth. We had Looney Tunes cartoons with Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, and Tweety, and Roadrunner. And they told the truth. They taught us at a young age there are consequences to all your actions. Even marriage. You know what they used to call marriage? They used to call it the ball and chain. To this day, I'm not sure if the ball is the child or if the woman is the ball. Wait, if the ball is Wait, is the ball the child or is the ball the woman? I'm not sure. But we do realize that the chain is either the woman or the child, right? They used to call it the old ball and chain. Why? Because like they don't do this the way they should do it, but in prison they used to give you a ball and chain and they used to clasp that shit around your leg. So this way, if they had you on a chain gang, you couldn't run anywhere because you got a big old iron ball on your freaking leg. So let's say you try to jump in the water and swim away, you're going to sink and drown. Or let's say you're trying to run away. There's no way you can run away because you got a big ass ball of fucking iron on your leg. So they used to do that to prisoners. I really wish we could bring back the good old days. But that ball and chain that was on your leg, that basically said, no, you're a prisoner, you're trapped, you're not going nowhere, right? They used to call it that. They used to call it the ball and chain. And you understood from a young age, once you get married, you're basically locked into this, right? So the reality is they taught us that there are consequences to your actions. I believe that men understand that if a woman has had children by another man, that she is still ball and chain locked to that other guy. And some men don't want to deal with that at all. Another thing, if a man, let's say the guy who's out there, the Pookie or Ray Ray she was messing with before you, or the Chad, the Pookie, the Ray Ray, or the Chad, when he comes over to visit his kids, you're the guy who's answering that door and you're seeing that guy. And a lot of times, more recently, those type of relationships end up in gunfire because men are very territorial and they're not. See, these women are trying to get you to accept polyandry. They want you to accept their multiple relationships with multiple men or their children with multiple men. And the reality is the men ain't going to have it. So why the hell would I want to put myself in a situation where I'm with you and I got to worry about this other guy showing up and him being in his feelings and maybe trying to fight me or trying to kill me over your ass? Like, why the hell would I want to deal with that? You hear about it almost every month that some father kidnaps his family or wipes his family out or something. You almost hear about that like every month in a different state. They call them the family wipers because they're not really serial killers and they're not really mass murderers, but they wipe out an entire family, usually over this shit right here. Why would I want to put myself in that situation? Why? I don't want to see your baby daddy coming up to my door, ringing my doorbell. And I'm territorial. I don't give a fuck. I'm territorial. I don't want to see your baby daddy showing up to my house, ringing my door. I don't want his fingers on my doorbell. I just put a doorbell on my door. That thing was like $35. It's a wireless doorbell that had 2 receivers. I got it off of eBay. No shit. This is true. I got 1 receiver upstairs. I got 1 receiver downstairs. I don't want this motherfucker coming to my house putting his fingers on my doorbell. It's my doorbell. Oh, yeah, hi. It's 12 o'clock. I'm here to see my kids. Nigga, get off my lawn. I'm sorry. I have to say it just like that. The energy is just up in me. I feel the spirit right now. I'm sorry. I have to say it. Get off my lawn. Can't do that because a court order says that he has a right to be there. He has a right to be at my house, ringing my doorbell, standing on my welcome mat, that I got a welcome mat right in front of my house. He ain't got no goddamn right to be in my house on my doormat, touching my doorbell. What are you, crazy? No wonder why these people be wiping out all these people. The third reason, I believe, is that I'm pretty sure enough men have seen television shows where there's a cleanup bro stepdad and he tries to say, hey, I got to make up a name. Maria, you're not allowed to be out at a certain hour. Or Timothy, you're not allowed to be at a certain hour. And the first thing that kid is going to do is turn to him and say, you're not my daddy. You're not my father. You can't tell me what to do. I do what I want. Only my mama tells me what to do. That shit right there has started in-house family feuds, shootouts, murders have happened for shit like that. The stepfather, I have somebody personal I know, not in my family, but somebody personal I know. He just got a divorce because his ex, who's now his ex, she had an older daughter and she had a younger son. And the daughter was trying to sneak boys into the house. And when he found out about it, He basically went to war with her. He said, no, you're not doing that. And she said, I do what I want. So he had a falling out with the mother, and then they got a divorce. He basically left her. He divorced her. I'm not going to say who it is, but chances are if he's listening to this video, he knows exactly who I'm talking about. So it is what it is. I try to make up names where I can. I try to, twist the situation to make it not, obvious. You know how like at the end of these movies, how it says, yes, this movie is not specifically talking about a specific person. Yeah, well, I try to do that as much as I can, but there's only but so much you can do. So the bottom line is, men don't want to hear that bullshit. It's like, listen, if you're in my house, you're going to follow my freaking rules. And the funny thing is, even these women don't tolerate that anymore. So they're, oh, yeah, well, I'll cheat on you. I'll leave. Be like, yeah, pack your shit and get the fuck out. And it's just that simple. But the problem is, when you're dealing with laws that say, no, she doesn't just have to pack her shit. She doesn't just have to get the fuck out. Most men are now, they're preemptive about it. They're like, wait a minute. It's like, I'm not going to put up with this shit. I'm just not going to deal with him at all. I'm going to get my passport and I'm going to go get a woman who I don't have to worry about this being a problem. And that's just that simple. Do you understand the logical progression of all of this? And by the way, if you're one of these people who says, why do you have to talk over the video? I'll tell you what, you can turn your freaking computer off and jump out a window right now because, yeah, I have to do this to make sure that they don't try to copyright infringe me or some shit. This is fair use, by the way.
Not because she's a mom. Number 7, just because you had a bad experience with your mother and she was single, raising you alone, doesn't mean every single mother you meet will be like your mom.
To tell you the truth there, yeah, it does. Next.
Number 8, if you have dated a lot of single mothers and you keep having negative experiences with single mothers and you are still single and not married yourself.
Okay, let me help you out there. Don't date them. Now, you have a right as a man to date whoever you want, but I'm warning you, get your passport. Don't tolerate this shit. Don't deal with it because it only ends up bad for you, especially in this country. Don't do it.
Sir, that means you just make poor choices in women.
Now you're making the poor choices in women. Now think about this. She's saying if you've dated single moms and it's gone bad, it's because of you. It's your fault. Shame, blame, and explain with the sign language. Shame, insult, guilt, the need to be right. Really? She's literally telling you if you dated him and it didn't go right, it has nothing to do with the fact that she was a single mom or that she had some other man's kids. It's your fault because you picked badly. That's like when we say the reason why you keep getting battered and left and cheated on is because you're attracted to the same type of guy who's going to batter, cheat, and leave. Do y'all see what's going on here? Anyway, next.
These women are terrible because they're single mothers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they are. Sorry.
You just have a pattern. You have a bad...
You hear that? It's your fault. You have a bad pattern. You have a pattern of picking bad women. Yes, that's right. You have a pattern of picking single moms. This woman just invalidated her own argument. Do you see what just happened here? She invalidated her own argument by trying to cast blame on the guy who, for whatever reason, was trying to be a cleanup bro. She just invalidated her own argument. Brilliant. Brilliant. I don't know what's in that naked juice besides a lot of sugar, but you shouldn't drink that stuff because it's obviously not helping your IQ.
Habit of choosing women that you aren't compatible with. It's not that you're having...
The reason you're not compatible is because she's a single mom and you're the one who doesn't have the children and you don't want to deal with that. That's why.
Experiences with childless women. You're still single. You're not married. 9 times out of 10, every woman you are choosing is not the right woman.
The reason why 9 times out of 10 you're choosing the wrong one is because they're single moms. I thought that was obvious.
Number 9, most of y'all saying y'all wouldn't date single mothers have never dated a single mother a day in your life. You just have this negative stigma on single mothers because you're applying a shit ton of stereotypes to her.
Yeah, one of those stereotypes being that she has some other man's kids. She has a baby daddy who's out there who's going to come to your house and push your doorbell. And the other issue is that her kids are going to grow up and possibly not respect you and possibly be there just to suck down your resources and possibly be there to tell you in your face, you ain't my father. Now, you can call those stereotypes. I call them facts. I call 100% facts.
Society has indoctrinated you.
Society indoctrinated me during the 80s. Number one, I hate communists. Number two, I'm strongly anti-drug. Number three, I believe marriage is important, but I also do at the same time believe it's a ball and chain. I miss the good old indoctrination. What are we being indoctrinated now? Well, the White House is a fucking rainbow right now. What else? Let's see. Well, we still hate communists, except Russia's not communist. They're actually a federation of independent states at this point. What else? Anything else? Well, this society doesn't seem to believe in fathers, and it also doesn't seem to believe in the nuclear family, or at least they're not pushing that because somebody might get offended. Like, we give a goddamn. We don't. So I think that's about it. Yeah, I was indoctrinated during the 80s. Everything you hear coming out of my mouth is symptomatic of somebody who was indoctrinated as a child during the 80s. I was born in 81, by the way, so it really upsets me when somebody calls me a boomer because I was born in 81. I'm not a boomer, I'm a millennial. But anyway, next.
Do so. Number 10, the best way to discontinue the vicious cycle of single motherhood is if you yourself as a man
don't date single moms and don't get divorced. It's easy.
refuse to create a single mother, number one.
How does a man create a single mother? The only ways that seem like, well, first of all, I believe you should marry before you carry. That's something else that we were taught in the 80s. You should marry first and then have the children. How does a man create a single mom? Like, the only way I can see a man creating a single mom is if you, A, kill another woman's husband, B, if you impregnate a woman and then refuse to marry her, C, if you die, like if you had a woman who's your wife or your girlfriend, you impregnated her, and then you die, now she's a single mom. That's assuming she chose to keep the children. But like, is she seriously blaming men for creating single moms? That sounds like what it sounds like to me. That sounds like SBE. That sounds like shame, blame, and explain.
And number 2, you decide to be the best stepfather there is.
How the hell did we get to that? You got to be the best cleanup bro you can be. Be all that you can be. Clean up bro, army.
If you leave a woman who is a bad person or bad at
Man, she's drinking up all that damn naked juice. I guess she's doing that in between takes.
parenting with raising a child alone, she is going to create more daughters that are going to be single mothers.
Huh? Wait, what? Well, you're talking about her creating more daughters that are going to be single mothers. But what you didn't mention is that there's also a possibility she'll create sons, just like this dude in the footage, who doesn't want to end up either with a single mom or doesn't want to end up a cleanup bro. You forgot about that option? All right, I guess you did. Okay, anyway.
She's going to create more sons who are going to make single mothers.
Or she'll create sons that don't want to perpetuate the cycle, just like the dude at the beginning.
If you classify yourself as a high value man, if you are
Well, listen, that high value man thing, Kevin Samuels specifically stated with a high value man is basically a man who's making a 6-figure salary and has been doing so for at least 3 years. But one of the more important things about being a high-value man is he's got a highly respected position and he's a utility to the community. A utility to the community might include a mayor or public official, perhaps a judge, perhaps he's a lawyer, perhaps he's a teacher, perhaps he's a policeman who makes a lot of money. There are cops that make a lot of money, like, commissioners or there are some cops that do make the 6-figure salary and have been doing it for many years. There are sheriffs, for example. There are firemen, and they make 6-figure salaries, and they are obviously a utility, and many people know them. Some of these people run for office. But when you call yourself a high-value man, the reality is a high-value man has very high expectations on the women he's with. A high-value man is not going after a chick who's laden in nasty tattoos, who wears raptor claws, and probably has another man's kids. He's not going after that. In this video, talking about high-value man, what Grandma on the panel did was threw his character at him. You don't know his character. You haven't known this person long enough to know his character. In fact, based upon what he was saying and how he was saying it, I'd have to say he was high in character. But the thing about it is, no matter what he would have done, all she would have had to do was let editing department edit the video, and it would have come out looking however they wanted it to look. So unless this was live television, he couldn't say exactly what he wanted to say and get his point across without it being diffused later on. As far as I was concerned, he was of high character. Was he a high-value man? Well, if he made the money and he's well-known in the community and he's a utility in the community, maybe he was. I don't know him. But the bottom line is, he has every opportunity and every choice not to date someone he doesn't want to date. And it's just that simple. Next.
Decent. 9 times out of 10, you have a great character. So you are a generous person. Your influence on a child that doesn't have a father would help repair our community.
I don't think so. I think that these men deciding to big town go their own way, I think that they believe that they can let this community burn in flames and be gentrified out of existence. And they can start something new, and they can start a new community. Men don't see that's the thing. We have demolition for a reason. There are some old buildings and there are some old structures that are not worth keeping up. There are some that are not worth conserving. There are some that are not worth renovating. A community can be the same way. And I really believe that there's a lot of men who would say, I'm not willing to perpetuate this cycle, whatever it is, community, whatever it is, and they would rather let it burn to the ground and build something new. If you ever did pottery, one thing you'd understand about pottery is that the potter has to break down what he's made, and he has to remold it over and over and over and over. And the reason why is supposedly because it forces the atoms to rearrange themselves in that mishmash. But as they do, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, if you have that same pot and you don't do that, if you don't give it the constant work over and you don't constantly break it down and remake it, it's not going to be as strong when you actually make the final product. And you have to break it down. You have to remake it. It's just like playing with Legos. It's like you build something, you tear it down, and then you rebuild something better. It's it's a concept. It's one of those concepts. Either you accept it or you don't. But I'm telling you, these men don't like this community at all. I don't know what more evidence I could give. I could give tons of it. It's all on the news. But I think they're ready to rebuild. And they want to rebuild from scratch. I've always said, me personally, when I really saw what gentrification was doing, I said, I like gentrification. They're not gentrifying me. I'm staying one step ahead of gentrification. I don't need a community to look like me. In fact, in this country, the mere fact that you have such stark differences in the people who live in certain communities only points to its racist history of zoning laws and redlining and all that. As far as I'm concerned, I prefer the Borg way. We are the Borg. You will be assimilated. Your cultural, economic, and technical specialties will be added to our own. assimilation actually makes way more sense than trying to be separate at this point. It really does, because obviously the separation means that you're not getting an equal share of resources. You're not getting an equal share of political opportunity. You're not getting an equal share of social opportunity. I prefer assimilation. Now, I know there's some people who probably resent that. They probably say, oh, you're wrong. Gentrification is changing the flavor of the neighborhood. I'm like, yeah, well, if your neighborhood wasn't worth preserving or couldn't perpetuate itself, Darwinism says that it's going to get wiped out simply because of survival of the fittest. So either you have the ability to keep yourself in tip-top shape and keep yourself going, or you're going to be wiped out. That's how nature works. That's how it works. It's just that simple. So me personally, I prefer gentrification. I prefer assimilation at this point. And believe me, it's not easy for a 6'6" tall black man to assimilate. It's really not. But it can be done. How it can be done? Well, you can be a passport bro. It's just that simple. And I think men are understanding that. Whether they agree with me or not, I think more and more men are understanding that. They're not happy with what they see. And if they're not happy with it, they want to destroy it. They want to flick a switch and make it disappear, but they can't. So they have to do what war games taught us in 1980s. They said the only way to win is not to play. And that is a fact. It is a truth. It is what it is. If you don't accept it, jump out a window. I could care less. Next.
Honorable mention. Just because I'm a single mother doesn't mean I've suddenly become incompetent or that I don't know anything about parenting. There are single mothers out there who are great mothers. They're great girlfriends.
I'm sure there are, but we don't want to date them. Next.
And they make amazing wives. There's plenty of men out here who became a stepfather and they love that experience.
Cleanup bros who love that experience. If you're a cleanup bro and you want to mention in the chat how lovely your experience has been as a cleanup bro or stepfather, aka stepfather, feel free to write a comment, because I know, I'm sure there's some stepfathers out there who've had very positive experiences with somebody else's kids. I'm pretty sure there are some out there somewhere. If you want to say that you have, feel free to comment. I'm not going to erase it, I promise. Just say tell your story. You could write, I think they allow you to write like 1,000 words or something. Tell your story. Prove me wrong. Go ahead. But if you're completely adverse to being a stepdad or a cleanup bro, also feel free to tell your story too, and why you feel that way. It's up to you. I mean, I'm not going to stop you. Go ahead.
If you don't want to date single mothers, that's your preference. That's okay. But stop trying to make it seem like they're...
The second that somebody tells you stop saying what you're saying, that's the minute. Listen, at this point, I'm not even going to continue the video. The second that she tells you, and this is something y'all got to understand, the second that they tell you that you need to stop saying your opinion or saying what you believe, that's when you cut them off. I'm not going to continue this video to the very end. There's still about, there's like 10, maybe 15 seconds left. The moment she welled up her mouth and said that shit, that's when this video stopped. I'm stopping it. No. What I said goes. If you want to be a cleanup bro, be one. If you don't want to be a cleanup bro, don't be one. It's your choice. It's nobody else's choice. And nobody can tell you not to say what you want to say. You say what you want to say, regardless the consequences. You do not allow them to overtalk you. You do not allow them to tell you what not to do. Period.
To be continued.